without further ado, I want to bring up our next caller. Okay, we have Omar calling from Texas. Omar, the subject says atheist views on trans and LGBT plus issues. Okay. I mean, I don't know if there's a such thing as an atheist view on LGBTQ plus. I think that, atheists are just people that don't accept the God beliefs that they're presented with thus far. A lot of atheists, in my experience, are free thinkers. They value human rights and therefore are supportive of the LGBTQ plus community. On that note, though, Omar, please feel free and ask your question.
Hey, Sophia, it's Omar. I'm calling live from the Free Thought Library in the Atheist Community of Austin in Austin, Texas.
I wondered if this was the Omar I know. Hello, Omar.
Hello. Yeah, I just figured I would call. I didn't put it maybe the clearest way I could, but yeah, I have noticed there has been a lot of, atheist, we're become atheist, and then a certain group just try to rationalize hatred for trans people or trans issues or not accepting trans people, as well as other maybe not scientific beliefs. And I just kind of always wonder, how does that happen? I wanted to get you guys' thoughts on that kind of stuff. The one that was particularly on my mind is just being so anti-LGBT in terms of trans issues, or not even accepting that trans people are real people. Yeah, that one particularly.
So to clarify, is it kind of like you're wondering why without religion, like if somebody became atheist and they still are transphobic, is that the question?
Well, sometimes I feel like they don't have an opinion on it, but they just go in on that. They kind of accept it almost uncritically. So,
yeah.
What do you all think of that?
I mean, I feel like I think that leaving religion doesn't mean you leave bigotry, right? I think that there are still ways in which I've definitely seen atheists, particularly when it comes to trans issues, feel like they can make some sort of biological argument. And really it's that they still have these transphobic ideas and they just haven't really dealt with them. I mean, I think it's interesting because there is, as Jimmy said, there's no atheist view of sexuality, right? Atheists have a lot of different opinions on pretty much everything. The only thing that we can all say is that we do not believe that there is a God. I personally look at it and think about, as an atheist, I've had to work so much harder than I did when I was religious to be rigorous about what do I actually believe is moral? What do I believe is right? And so I started re-examining my own beliefs because I was pretty bigoted as a Christian. I'm going to put that out there. And I'm sure that, there are still ways in which I'm, anyone who says that they're just the most open-minded and they have no bigotries whatsoever, they're just not examining themselves and trying to root it out. It's kind of my belief. There's still ways I can improve. I'm 100% sure about that. But I started looking at, is the stuff that I was saying wrong? Is it wrong? What was I basing that on? What was I responding to? And now that I've left religion, if I continue to believe that somehow it's wrong to be gay or wrong to be trans, or that trans people don't really exist, or their experiences are illegitimate, what am I basing that on? I have so much more freedom now that I have left religion to look at it and be like, these are people who are finding that they are happiest living a particular way. This is who they are. I don't have some magical supreme authority to say that they're not. And why would I want them to suffer so that they can fit into an imagined binary that I only believed because I was told I should when I was a religious person? That starts to feel very ridiculous for me personally after leaving religion. So I guess while I would say all that, almost sort of rambling to say, I think that even though there isn't like, here's the atheist thought, I look at it and I'm like, I can see how my thought process changed when I left religion, because I started to just challenge myself to be like, not kind of such a little shit.
Yeah. And when it comes to these beliefs that we have when we are religious, I want to harken back to the point that Sophia made about the power structures. When you're in religion, the bigotry toward people unlike yourselves is there in order to protect the power structure. Because if you accept those people that are different from what you're being taught, then the entire power structure is vulnerable to crumbling. You have to teach that homosexuals and transgender people are not what God intended in order for their intent to manifest itself in the minds of others who they're trying to draw their support and their financing from. Once you turn your back on that, or once you change course, you lose your credibility as far as being the power structure that is saying these hateful and hurtful things, because then maybe people say, well, what else are they wrong about? And maybe I don't even need to go there or give them money anymore. And then that kind of thing can be so ingrained. And, coming out of religion and still having a bigotry towards transgender and LGBTQ plus people is a lot like realizing, and I shouldn't say it's a lot like, because still that hatred is so much and so far more destructive toward those people. But I want to liken it to the thing that a lot of people experience when they come out of their religion. They still hold on to like the belief in hell, for example, because it's so freaking scary. It's the thing that has probably kept them in their religion the most. And then they realize that they've got questions about their religion. And so they start moving away from their religion. And almost always the last thing to go is the belief in hell. They could call themselves an atheist and still be afraid of hell because they've spent a lifetime being so afraid. And if you spend a lifetime hating certain people, it might take some time. It might take some time to get over that hatred. On the other hand, though, for the people that do get over that, I would say that once you do start questioning that power structure, you realize the lack of validity that they have with the claims that they make. You realize, these people are just people, right? LGBTQ plus people are people having a human experience, trying to find themselves, just like I'm trying to leave this religion that has taught me so many things that I disagree with and that I'm not okay with. And when you step out of that, you open your eyes to the fact that we are all individuals. You can't help but have that same sympathy for the LGBTQ plus community. And I think that is likely why so many atheists who also consider themselves free thinkers have such sympathy or have such empathy for those people. And so that's my thoughts. Those are my thoughts on that. Omar, what say you?
No, I agree with y'all on that. There's one thing I've noticed is a lot of people just kind of get into this idea of like trying to find a rational belief and, I got out of religion, now I want to be rational. And they kind of are contrarians on a lot of things. So they'll probably look into like, let me look at these anti-trans arguments, or maybe even go into other kind of conspiracies and then like rationalize, I was smart enough to get out of religion. Now I'm smart enough to believe this stuff. And then they get into all this other hatred and bigotry, or at least that's what I have noticed.
Omar,
try to back it up like, it's right. Yeah.
Omar, I want to challenge you on one thing though. And don't get me wrong. Glad that you made the switch, and glad that you progressed. What I'll call progression, out of religion and into the realm of free thinking. But just because somebody is religious does not mean that they're not smart, right? And so I want to make that point there. You say you were smart enough, or people are smart enough to get out of religion, but some people, I look at religion as a form of survival. I look at it as an indoctrination. First of all, when people are helpless and young, usually they are told who they are and what they need to think, not how to think. And that is a disastrous way to let or have your brain, your thought processes form. So not only that, but then they risk throwing away all of their security, their sense of community, their family, maybe funding for college, maybe a place to live, food on the table, a shelter over their head, if they are to challenge those views that they have been instilled with. And so while they may be smart, they also need to take action to ensure their own survivability, to ensure their own comfort in life. There are many people that call us from Muslim countries that say, you know, I'm not a believer, but there's nothing I can do. And our advice to them a lot of times is, hey, look, don't do anything that's going to put you in danger. Because in those countries, if you come out as an atheist, you could be stoned to death. You could be imprisoned. You could be hanged. And so we don't want to see that happen, right? We don't want to also, though, give the impression that we think they're not smart. And I don't think that you mean that maliciously, but I think that that's a good opportunity to step in and say, you know, let's be a little bit sympathetic to people who don't have the luxuries that we have had or the awakenings that we've had.
I think I might want to throw out there, I don't know if that's exactly what Omar was meaning. Okay. You can correct me if I'm wrong, Omar. I think that at least how I interpreted that was sort of, and I agree with everything you said there about like, I'm not smarter now than I was before when I was religious. You know, it was just, I was exposed to a very different, I would say set of facts, but I was given, a lot of sort of twisted information. But I think that there is a sort of, I would call it like a dude bro atheist who does leave religion and take the attitude that they are now smarter. And so they're going to be contrarian about everything. And so I think about people who are secular and are maybe anti-trans are arguing for, how to put it, they perceive cultural pressure, whether they are correct or not, to believe a certain way. So they've just decided they're going to reject everything. So if they feel that they are supposed to be, these are people who complain a lot about like political correctness, right? It's a very terminally online kind of person, the online dude bro, the atheist dude bro, I guess, which I realize is gendered language. It's just, I feel like I've often run into folks who are men who kind of do this, that, well, I'm an atheist because I'm a smart free thinker, but I'm also a smart free thinker, so I don't buy into the trans agenda. Like there are people who hold these two simultaneous beliefs who do exist in atheist spaces online. And it's unfortunate. And I would argue that those are people who are, they're not actually taking in evidence about how, like, that trans people do in fact exist. They're not listening to people's experiences of what it's like to live as a trans person. They're just kind of trying to do it's similar to the Ben Shapiro facts are smarter than your feeling style, or facts are more important than your feeling style thing. I believe that it's a way for them to try to cover up any hurt, to never be vulnerable, because they can just be the super smart dude in every situation and they don't have feelings. They just have logic kind of thing. So at least that's how I interpreted it. But yeah, just to throw that out there, that does exist and I do see it. And I find it an interesting archetype as well.
Yeah, that was more what I was referring to, Sophia. I think people have their own personal journeys on their reasons that they're still believers or they're not. But I do think there are some kind of people who just take it as like, well, I figured this out, so I'm smarter than other people because I can figure out other things that is kind of contrarian to what the popular notion of what to believe is.
Yeah, I feel like there's. Sorry, go ahead.
Take that down, like not to getting atheists who believe the Earth is flat.
Yeah, it's kind of this people who are more married to being contrarian than they are actually seeking what is most true. And these knee-jerk contrarian reactions are potentially obfuscating truth rather than actually helping them find it. It sort of goes with kind of what I feel like we say often, was just that not all atheists agree or say the same things or believe the same things. And that in our community with the ACA, I feel very fortunate that, people I've met are affirming and wonderful. But I also feel like those are people who select to be part of a community together where they may be challenged, where they actually are going to have to think about what they're saying. And I think that, when people have some of these ideas of, well, atheists, these atheists are jerks too, they're out there and a lot of them can suck, but I think they're not pursuing factuality. I don't think they're leaving religion because they became convinced it was untrue. I think sometimes they're leaving it because they just want to be contrary and that makes them feel big. And so they'll be contrary about what they view as the trans agenda, or they'll join the manosphere, or be part of that space because that also makes them feel big. I think that these are the atheists who sometimes will convert back to a religion, and because it was never really a well-founded atheism to begin with.
Yeah, Omar, sorry about that. I thought what I was hearing from you was maybe a misspeak. Not that you necessarily thought that, but that you were kind of just highlighting that as a way to think about it, and or maybe something that comes from other people. And that's a good opportunity to get in there and dispel these kind of rumors that atheists, quote unquote, think like this, right? When we don't, right? I don't think, for example, that religion is a mental illness. I don't think that people are stupid because they believe in religion. And so, Omar, not necessarily directed toward you, but I really appreciate you bringing that up.